Hello, techies. Let's talk about Upptalk before we get started with the video. Upptalk is an online community for live, interactive software training, creating confident individuals capable of using global business tools. Let's start with Pega before we get into Pega PCBA. Pega is widely used because it is a quick and flexible business process management (BPM) tool built on Java ideas. Next, we'll move on to Pega PCBA. The primary emphasis of a Pega Certified Business Architect (PCBA) is the planning and execution of a Pega-based software project. Expertise in analyzing, designing, and creating business needs and specifications for the Pega application is a prerequisite for a PCBA. The topics that we will cover in this video are: case communications, identifying users and modes of communication, sending an email from a case, customizing user view layouts, section rules and guidelines for designing user views. Please like and share if you find this video helpful, and subscribe to our channel. Sneha will go through the topics discussed in this video in depth.
So today, let us go ahead and let us talk something about the correspondences. Right? So let's talk about communication. So when you're dealing with a business process, I definitely have need to communicate something to the customer, right? So may not be just the customer, but to a lot of other people as well. Correct? So that we call the correspondence. So to keep the customers informed of what is happening with their transaction, what is happening with the I should communicate. Be it any communication, be it a physical document that you send, or it might be an email, it might be a text, it might be a fax, anything, but I should keep the customer informed of what is happening with his transaction. So on this context, we will be talking about email type of correspondence because that's the most frequently used one here. Right? So we have a separate shape designed for this email correspondence. I think we have already used it in one of our case steps, isn't it? There's a shape we used for send email. Right?
Yeah.
We will try to configure this particular correspondence. We'll see how a mail could be sent, or if there are any attachments, how would I add it to that particular email. So we will see all these things today. Okay?
Yeah. It's like this, you mean customers, you mean the end users, isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
It's like in the bank or anything is changing or anything they
Correct.
send every time.
Or probably a passport-based application. So I need to keep the applicant informed of what is happening with his transaction. Right?
Okay.
So we will send him an acknowledgement first that your application has been received, or probably another acknowledgement for the payment that he has done, or an acknowledgement or a communication saying that his address has been verified. So something like that. So some sort of communication.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So in this context here, we should be identifying the different roles in the correspondence. Okay, so we have three different roles here: owner, customer, and interested. So owner is something who created the transaction or who created the case type, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then customer is someone on whose behalf the case is created, right?
Yeah.
Interested parties as in people who are, who are involved in the case, but they are not actually working on it.
Yeah.
Okay. Let us see this with a simple example. Suppose there is a self-service portal for applying for a passport. Okay, I am the one who want to apply for a passport. So I have created a case, or I have started a case for applying for the passport. Now, who would be the owner in this transaction?
Applying, you're the?
Yes. So I am the owner of
Yeah,
this.
because you're the one. Yeah.
Correct. So who would be the customer here?
Customer, whoever is applying to.
As in this case, it is me again, right? Because I am the one who is applying.
Okay, could you please tell me the scenario again?
So I am applying for a passport,
Yeah.
right? So I'm applying it myself. So there is a self-service portal where any customer can apply for a passport. So I use
Yeah.
it and I've started the transaction. So who is the owner and who is the customer here?
Okay, because it's self-service, it's both owner and customer is the same person.
Exactly. Exactly. So it is me. I would be the owner of the case and I would be the customer as well. Okay.
Hmm.
Now,
Yeah.
let's take another scenario where you lost a credit card. Okay. So what you do, you call the customer service portal of your bank. So they do all the verification. They validate your ID and all of that is done. Then the customer service executive, he will create a case for lost card transaction.
Hmm.
Now, who is the owner of this case?
The customer care agent
Exactly. And who is the customer?
who raised the complaint, or
Mm,
in the sense
Ray.
the person who cust customer is the one who lost the.
Exactly. So you would be the customer, right?
Yeah.
If suppose you are the one who lost the
Oh yeah,
card and
that's
who.
what I meant. Raise the complaint in that way. Who raised the complaint?
Exactly.
So yeah, yeah,
Exactly. Okay. So then customer is the one who lost that card, right?
yeah,
Whereas owner of the case is the customer service executive. So in
yeah,
some cases, both of it could be the same. Like in self-service portals or where you can raise your own request, it is the same. Owner and customer could be same. Or it
yeah.
could be different. Okay. Then interested parties are there. As in like in the second scenario for the lost card transaction, a manager might be involved from the credit card department. He might be involved in this transaction, but that doesn't mean he works on it. Correct? He might
Yeah.
just observe or he might just supervise. As in like
Hmm.
he just want to be notified of every lost card transaction that is happening. So he is just involved in the transaction, but no, he doesn't actually work on it.
Hmm.
Like probably you can think of it as a CC in our mails.
Yeah,
Right?
I was
They're
thinking the same.
Yeah, right. So they're just notified. It doesn't mean they need to take any action, right? So similarly, interested parties here.
Yeah.
And in order to configure this correspondence, we have different types available. There's an email, there's text messages, fax, there is a normal mail also. So depending upon the kind of correspondence you are looking at, I would like to configure that particular type of correspondence. Right? So not necessarily that every business transaction should use all these. No, it obviously depends upon the kind of requirement you are looking at. But to be very frank, out of all these, we frequently use the email when compared with the all the other modes. Okay, so let's see how do we configure this email correspondence. Yes, I yeah, I think I've already logged into the application.
Mhm.
So let me switch back to the Dev Studio. Or yes, you can also configure this from the App Studio as well. Once we'll have a look from the App Studio, then we'll come back to the Dev. Right?
Now we are in dev, isn't it?
Yes, yes, we are in Dev. Yes. So let us just jump to the App Studio once. So to see the perspective of like what happens from the App Studio. Okay, let me open the case type.
Mhm.
Okay, so in the meanwhile, what do you think we could configure in this correspondence, or probably let us take the example of a mail. Okay, so
Mhm.
what do you think you might need to configure on this mail?
Uh, the sender recipient.
Right. Okay. So the first thing is who should be receiving this mail.
Yeah.
We will decide who should be the recipient. Now, as we are talking about recruitment here, so am I concerned with just one specific recipient, or could it be multiple recipients? As in, like, suppose when I receive an offer letter, will it be just for me, or will there be
Offer
other?
letter might be just for you. But
Okay,
if it's a regret email, they might send for to everyone
exactly, right. So
who
it
has
might be
been
for a group
rejected
of people.
together. Yeah.
Right, right. Or sometimes in the offer letter, you see there would be some other mails as well. As in, it could be for the onboarding team or for HR team members could be there, right? They might be in CC,
Hmm.
who might be the recipient, but others also would be notified, as in like saying this candidate is selected. So the onboarding team or the HR team will be notified. Correct?
Yeah.
I think I'll just reload this instance once. So the first thing is recipients. Okay. Now, can I hard code it? I mean, can I hard code that this person is going to be my recipient? Can I do that?
No.
No, because it would be for each specific case instance.
Each case
I
it
cannot
will be.
hard code it to one email address. It has to be dynamic, right?
Yeah.
Depending upon the user input, the same email has to be used in order to send the email as well. So
Hmm.
I cannot hard code it. Okay, this is still loading. Hmm. Okay, yes, recipients are good. Then what about the content, the body of the mail? How does it have to be?
Content, it might be a template which you put, but you can, I think, mail merge. Like you might can
Mhm.
get the names from the database, like dear so and so.
Exactly,
You can get
exactly.
the
Yes, yes.
name and
So
wherever
there
you
there
want
could
to
be
put.
a standard template. Correct,
Yeah,
correct.
but
There
in
could be
between you might be have database variables which will get
Mhm.
uh, those
Correct,
stuff from
correct,
the database.
exactly, correct. So those values again, they should be dynamically be populated. Correct.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yes, here is your send offer email. Let's see what all we could do on this particular step. Yes, so here if you observe, yes, send to, I have multiple options here. There's an email address, which means a hard coded email address here, right?
Hmm.
But yes, this cannot be hard coded if it's a if you're uh, thinking to send it out to a particular user. Yes, this cannot be hard coded. But otherwise, if it's part of the HR team or something, yes, they will have standard emails and I can deal with it. Okay. So, for example, let me choose a field here. Field as in the one that is part of your case type. Correct? So you
Yeah.
get to see all the different fields here. So there's only one field with respect to email that we have configured. So I get to see it directly. Right? So this email is something that we have configured in the get personal info. So the
Hmm.
same email is considered as this field here. Okay. So I could use a field because this is more of a dynamic approach.
Hmm. Yeah, it will get that from the database, like whatever you've stored,
Exactly.
whatever the candidate has stored.
Exactly. Yes. 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 Then otherwise, you have something called as user reference. As in like this is related to the data types. So you get to see a create operator and update operator for each of the data types that you have created. Right? So if this is something related to data types, you can use those operators also if required. Okay. Otherwise, yes, here you have your participants. So this deals with your owner, customer, and interested parties.
Mm-hmm.
You want this to be sent out only to the customer. Yes, you can choose the customer. Or if it's for the owner, the one who created the case, or for everyone involved in the transaction, it goes to the all participants. Okay. So for now,
Okay, so
what is-
if you want multiple, you will choose all participants.
right, yes, multiple as in the same mail for everyone, is it? Is it like that?
Okay, no, no, if I have to
Mhm.
get multiple email addresses at the same time,
Mhm.
it
Yes,
might be
then
some people
uh,
from the list.
okay. So for that, I cannot use this contextual properties panel. So I need to go back to the
Ah,
dev.
okay.
First, I should populate all the emails, right? The list of emails. Then on each email, I should use the correspondence rule. So that would be done on the Dev Studio.
Okay.
Okay.
So those refinement will be done by the essays.
Developer.
Like,
Correct.
yeah.
Correct. Yes. Yes. So here, what I'll do is I'll send one to the email that is listed out here, and another email for a common address, maybe HR team at ABC.
So I'm just so only BS can do till this point in the sense if they don't have access to
Correct,
dev and
correct, correct.
is there discussion happening because you can't tell them anywhere here, isn't it? So is that by discussions they will between the
Yes, so
system
that
analyst,
correct. That will be mostly described in the stories only. I mean, even though we
user
have a
story? Okay.
yes. So even though we have a lot of aspects of agile workbench and all inbuilt in Pega, but I hardly see people using it. So they still go back using those conventional methods of Jira or their Kanban boards only to deal with this project management.
Okay, so as a user, they will write everything there,
Right,
and
right.
accordingly,
Yeah,
the developers will pick from there and do it.
correct, correct,
So
correct.
in that case, business architect doesn't use the tool at all.
Exactly.
Only to
That's the
check particular
whole
things, I
whole
think.
point. Yeah.
Okay. Otherwise, where they can record user stories, if something like that in Pega.
They could do it here. I mean, we will be able to do it from the Dev Studio. You have a portal where you can. I mean, not a portal, but you have a place where you can get your requirements, specifications. All of those can be done.
Mm.
Yeah. We call as Agile Workbench. I mean, that Agile Workbench is obviously for the developers, so they can check their stories. They can, put in their comments onto it. They can add in some screenshots, videos. All of that can be done from the Agile Workbench. Developers can do
Okay.
it. I don't see that's not being used
But
much as.
usually, user stories are written by the product owner, isn't it? So they are.
But here, I mean, again, going to the conventional approach, like we sometimes may not be expecting the product owners to know how to use these studios and all. So
Yeah,
they go
yeah.
back to the
That's what I was
approach
asking
to
because okay, so usually
yeah,
it's system analysts do it or
correct,
proxy product
correct.
owners they call it. Okay.
Yeah, you can call it so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So at least a bit of Pega
Yeah, I know
knowledge should
usually
help.
product owners are business users. Usually they are, so they
Mm,
don't know how
mm.
to write it.
Correct.
Yeah.
So if properly used until the potential, I think this really helps. But
Mm.
people are a bit reluctant to put everything on the application. So they go back to those old models and the old approaches itself.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Yes. Yes. Okay. Now I can add in multiple recipients here, and you can choose whether it has to be a common email for all the listed recipients or you want it to be a separate email. So you can choose that. For now, I'll let this be a separate email. What is the subject? So, so few, I mean, all these are your properties.
Mm-hmm.
So if, and then few ones are already listed out. So if we want, we can choose them. But here we generally get the properties. So let me write my own subject.
Okay, we can write our own subject essentially.
Yes, we can write our subject. And then you can also compose the body of your email. Once you click on it, like you said, I have different templates available. So I can see if any of the template suits my requirement, I could use it. There is some thank you, status update, resolution, so goal deadline. So these are all related to your SLS. So if you
Yeah.
want to
So you
notify,
can write your own template here and
exactly, yes.
how do you get the fields in between? Like hi, after that I want to put
Yes,
Sneha. We can do
yes,
that, isn't it?
correct. We can do that, yes, yes. For example, let me just, hmm. So in order to get the properties or in order to populate the dynamic fields, you can use this particular dot and then the property. So something like, and then this would be your property, like dot first name or last name, whichever.
But
Yeah.
how do we know where it is? Like, will it not give a drop down search like when you put there? No.
Hmm. No, it doesn't give. So
So
just
you
that
should know.
we,
You should have known where it is.
correct, correct.
So it will, when you put like that, it will not connect to the database and get it. Okay.
Hmm. So earlier it used to give us the, mm, let me see. You have this. Once you click on it, the
Because I
populating.
usually set
Yes,
up this
yes,
kind of
yeah,
emails. Uh,
yes,
so
yes.
what I work on, there
Mhm.
is when you say like that, when you put in a particular way, it will, because we have a choice in the left hand side where we can select which database and which unique key it has to take
Okay,
and on which basis it has to send. So then it will display
okay.
all the database fields. So you can select from there after hi
Mm.
what you want to put.
Right, right. Now on this magnifier, if you click, yes, we got the properties. You'll be
How
able to
did you
select
get
from.
that?
I just clicked on. Okay, so you got your symbol. Why is this not going? One moment. Yeah. Once you give these two options, I mean,
Uh-huh.
once you give this, you get a magnifier here. See?
Okay, but first name, first time you only have to give.
Yeah, first name I have given it. Yeah, initially I did give it first time. Later I took it from the list of options.
Okay, okay.
Okay, and you can also deal with embedded properties if you want. So
Mm-hmm.
within student, I have some student first name, last name, all of those are there, right? So you can also deal with those things.
Mm-hmm.
It could be for embedded properties also. From student data, I can also bring in some student ID.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is student data dot student ID. Okay. So something like this. Okay. For example, this is the email. Okay. Now let us see this. I'm going to just save and run this. We'll see how it works. Now each of the correspondence or each of this communication you define here, that creates a correspondence rule in the backend on the Dev Studio. Okay, so let me give in some email here. I'll give some abc@gmail.com. Let's see if it's the same email the system is considering or not.
Mm-hmm. There are mandatory fields, I think, for you to fill.
Oh, yeah. Right. This is part of our validation that we
We
did,
are validated, isn't it?
the validate rule. Okay, let me proceed. Or as this as I'm now going to check only with respect to the release offer, I
Yeah.
have email release offer. So what I could do is I can jump to the stage that I want. So there is an option called change stage. Right? Choose which stage I would want to jump to. And this is
This is in the
obviously when
testing bit, isn't it? It's for the testing purposes.
exactly, yes, yes. So we wouldn't even show this option called change stage for the end users. It is mandatory that they have to go through all the stages,
Yeah.
except for this conditions that you mentioned. Otherwise, they have to go through all the stages.
Okay, so the email.
So yes, I think yes, two emails are generated. So let's see. So yes, one is to the abc@gmail.com, which is your candidate.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, this is how the mail looks like. And you see, hello has come. Why did this come? Because this is the first name that we have given.
Yeah.
All right. And then
And
your
the
from
initiator
will
also will
always
change,
be,
isn't it? Like here it is,
yes,
where is it? Sent?
it is
No,
default at
from.
the rate Pega sample, but we can use the recipient as well.
Yeah, set
We
the
can do
sender.
that. Okay, let's see what do we have on the other mail. Okay, yes, this is to the HR team. Now I've got two mails because I did not want to club them together. In case if you want the same mail to be generated, and all the recipients added on the same, then yeah, you can do that. Okay, now for example. So now let me just use only a single one. So a common email to all the recipients. Okay, let me just pause it. Okay, this time I'll give maybe Virat Kohli. Now this is A, B, C, D. For example. The date of birth that we are validating. So I can directly jump, change info, sorry, change stage, validation. Okay, yes, I see only one offer letter this time, but with two recipients here. So this could generally be used when you are sending out a rejection email, right? I don't need to send multiple rejection emails. Probably it could be for
Yeah.
all.
Can we hide
Uh,
also? Like we put it in BCC, isn't it?
right, but from this particular configure option, we cannot do it.
We
But
cannot do,
yeah,
but from dev you can do it.
correct, yes. Right, and this time I
There
got
is
the
the
first name as
reject.
Virat.
You don't want to show
Yeah,
others' email, isn't it?
correct, exactly. Yes, true. Okay, right.
Yeah.
And so you generally send out emails, right? And what if you want to add in some attachments here? So because there might be attachments, like as in if you are sending out uh, probably an email for some online transaction that you did, you get to see the bill, the invoice would be there. So the amount, the time that you have purchased, the total bill amount, so the GST, so everything would be put up on the invoice. Right? Sometimes you might need an attachment for it to be included in the mail. Now, how do I add in some attachments? Before that, let's see what all shapes or what steps I can use for this creating a PDF. Okay. So there is a step here. Click on more automations. There is a step create. Exactly. So this creates a PDF from a particular section. Okay, you can choose a section that needs to be put in your PDF. Now, how do you want this PDF to be generated? So here you get to see all your sections that you have created and few default sections also. Right? So, for example, I would like to put in some get personal info. Now, how do you want this to be generated? How you want this to be put in, as in like a landscape or a portrait? You can choose. What is the name of the PDF you want to show?
Mhm.
It could be invoice, it could be personal info. I mean, whatever, depending upon the
Yeah.
text that you are using. How do you want this attachment? So, on which category you would want this to be? So this is a PDF. So I would like to put it as a document. Or you
Document.
can put a file. Okay. And in case if you are wanting it to be a screenshot or a URL, you can use it as per the context. So let me put it as a document. I'm going to save it. Now, if I want this PDF to be added onto the email, obviously this has to be before your email is correct. So I would like to just move it across to the top. And this PDF now that is created, I want this to be added as an attachment in my email. So how would I do that? Go back to your send offer email, click on include attachments.
Include attachments. Okay.
And do you want all case attachments to be included or you specifically want to select some? No, I don't want everything. I want only few specific attachments. So you can choose the category and yes, there's a document that you've just generated. Right? And you can add in multiple attachments also. Okay.
How does it know that particular when you select as document, that particular one only it will pick?
Right. So here, when I map this or when I create this document, so for each rule, or you can say for every rule that you create in Pega, will have a PZINS key, which is unique. So
Mhm.
it would be different for sections, it would be different for properties, it would be different for your PDF. So it is different for each one of
No,
the
but
entity
here we
that
are
you
not
create.
told it's PDF, isn't it? There might be in this, you told
Mhm.
one particular, but there might be in two places we would have created PDFs for two different things.
Correct, correct.
But how
True.
will it know that particular PDF you're going to pick?
Mm. So suppose when I just add in one more document, for example,
Yeah.
let me just add in one more. On this one, I would just put the okay. I'll let it be the educational info.
Mhm.
And this one also I'll put it as a document only.
Mhm.
Save this. For example, I would just like to rename this. This is for personal info. And this is for educational info. Okay. Now suppose I want to add in both of these on the email. Now, so let me go to the offer. No, I don't want to include all attachments. Oh yeah, include attachments. So when I give include all case attachments, I would get both of these. Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
What if I want to choose from among them? Sorry. Let me choose category and
Document.
document. Yes. It isn't asking me any specific one. Okay, let's see. Okay, I've mentioned the same thing twice, but let's see what happens. It isn't asked me
Yeah,
specific.
that's what I was thinking because I thought it will show the particular one.
Right, right. Okay, yes, I see. Three, one. Oh, see, by default, it has taken the personal info and the educational info. Both are considered
Yeah, but
mentioning.
we don't have a choice there, isn't it? Yeah, so that,
Yeah, true. So I think even though it is not asking, it is considering the order in which we are generating it. So if you
okay,
observe the timestamp, personal info is generated at 36:36. After that, you got the educational info PDF. After that, both of these are added as attachments on the offer letter.
okay.
I think even without even specifying the choice, we will still be able to add in the attachments without at least the specific identifier. We can still add in the attachments.
Mm. But yeah, it's difficult to be sure that which one isn't it? It's going. Yeah.
Correct, correct. So generally, this creation of, I mean, even though PDFs are created here,
Hmm.
if you observe, I mean, if you look at the format and all, maybe I'll just run one case. So now I look at this PDF, you see, I
Hmm.
will to see it like this. So you see there's first name, last name, so all of this is generated. But when we send out a PDF to the customer, this is not how it looks like, right? We add in a header, then you would have a footer, then there is some, you know, you have a lot of other things like signature
Yeah.
would be there, organization's address. So all of that cannot be part of a section, right? I
Okay.
don't need to show it to the user, but still it has to be there on the PDF. So even though we try to put it here, we still do a lot of refining from the Dev Studio,
Yeah.
as in like what should be the borders or how the UI has to be presented. So here there isn't any heading. The customer even doesn't know what this is. Right? We need to have proper headings, the organizational details, addresses, date, times. So all this would be there. Correct? So this is
Yeah.
more like we are providing a template, but a lot of refining would be done on the Dev Studio again. Yes. So like
Yeah.
in initially, probably from first we are talking about that from the App Studio we will be able to design a skeleton of the transaction. right? But a lot of other internal processing refinements are all taken care from the Dev Studio perspective. Yes, right. So this is how you would be able to deal with the communication and then your case attachments, right? So are we good? Any questions so far? Are we clear?
Yeah, yeah. That's what I had the question there itself. That's document, but I think
Mm-hmm.
we can refine everything from Dev Studio,
Correct,
isn't it?
correct, correct. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. And probably,
There it might
uh,
give more choice also, I think, to select
exactly,
and
exactly. Yes, yes. In fact, there I can use actual sections. I can embed multiple sections as well. Here it is only given an option to add one section. What if I want to group different sections? Right? So
mm,
that I cannot do it here. So for that I should go back to the Dev Studio to embed different sections onto the PDF. Yes,
okay. Yeah.
right. Yes. So I think we are good with the emails and the attachments.
Hmm.
So next we have things related to the UI, configuring the user layouts and a bit of styling, what all we could achieve from the App Studio. Yeah. And I
Okay.
think we'll talk about more on the agile workbench. How do you define your stories? How do you import them? So all of that we will check tomorrow.
Okay. Okay. Great.
Earlier, we were discussing about this correspondences, the communication with respect to emails, and we have also spoken about the PDFs, as in like how would you generate a PDF and how would you attach it to the case.
Hmm.
Okay, so then moving ahead, let us talk about customizing the user views. So far, whatever we have been discussing, like we use the same thing the platform has provided and we have just designed our case life cycles, right? But if you observe the transaction, so the earlier transactions that we have run, if you look at this particular transaction, let me just run it. So when we run this case, look at the screen space, the where the UI is defined or how are your forms going to be. So look at those aspects. Right. So if you see here, let me just run it.
It's taking some time, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. Now when I run this particular case, if you see the inputs, as in like the fields that we have added, they are like in a
Yeah.
stacked order, as in like one below the other. Correct? And
Yeah.
every text or probably every field is taking the same amount of space. Correct?
Mm.
Like the same is with first name, the same with the date. So if you observe, so this is the space that is given for a first name. So first name would be hardly of 20 to 25 characters max, not more than that. Can you expect this huge first name of a candidate?
No, I
No.
don't.
So which means you're not effectively utilizing the screen space. I see a lot of empty space here on the right. So this is all empty.
Mm.
There is date of birth. Okay, so date of birth, I would choose something like this. So not even half of the field is used effectively here.
Mhm.
Same thing with your grades. Grade would be 2 characters max, probably. Or if you get like 100% of grade, you will have 100, but not more than that. Correct? So we see that the user forms could be done a little more effectively. So even when you go with the other screens, I think the okay. Let me define the validation here. now, yeah, even on the next screens also, again, grade could be a single pointer or a max of 2 pointers. Gap in education also could be a maximum of 2 characters only, not more than that. Right? So
Yeah.
we see that for all these fields, we are not effectively utilizing the screen space, because your good UI design always impacts the user's experience. So how do we effectively design the UI, or how do we effectively define these user views? So that's where we talk about layouts today. We talk about a lot of things. We talk about some templates as like how the UI should be designed, right? So we'll talk about all these things. So let me go to the recruitment case life cycle. Now, there are certain guidelines that I need to follow when I'm designing my UI. It's not like randomly, however I want, I would be doing. No. Obviously, the first one is depending upon the wireframes that you get from your customer, as in like your product owner. That's one major thing. Along with that, we follow a lot of other guidelines as well. Right? So if you observe, so these are the things that we will be looking at. So we know that the UI that you define will create sections for you in the backend. Correct? Now, any change that I need to make in the UI will start from your section rules. So inside the sections, I have, it's like a collection of different items. It could be text boxes, it could be radio choices, buttons, it could be drop downs. Okay? So I have a lot of different aspects which I can group in a section. Now, within a section, you have something called as dynamic layouts. Right? So these dynamic layouts are something which group elements together. So we would be talking about these layouts. How can you customize them? How can you add in some templates to them? Okay. Along with this, we'll talk about these templates, but after looking at the guidelines. So always, excuse me, always minimize the data elements to a single set that is critical to your screen. Right? So do not use some irrelevant information. So do not collect some irrelevant information from the user. Suppose we are dealing with recruitment. Now, do you think we would need the candidate's spouse's medical history here?
No.
No, absolutely not. But maybe after the candidate is onboarded, then I might need, but on this context, it is not important for me. Right? So then let us not ask for those kind of information from the user. Right? And do not let the users guess what is happening with the application. So be clear with the instructions. Give the labels wherever it is necessary. Right? And one more important thing is your design consistency. So maintain a consistency throughout all the screens in your application. Right? In one field, suppose date of birth shows a calendar in one of the screens. In some other screen, you show it as a drop down, then I cannot call your application is consistent. Right? At least for the same type of controls, you use the same, or try to maintain a consistency across these elements. Right? It doesn't mean you need to use some flashy colors and labels. No, just stick to the basics. If you are asking the user the first name, let it be first name. Do not put some fancy labels and all. Fancy stuff isn't required. You don't need to go with animations and all. Right? So let it be pleasant to the user and let it serve the purpose. Okay. Now, if I have to go back to the application once, yes. Now, so let me click on configure view.
Where did you click for configure view? On the views?
No, I just clicked on the collect information, and then on the right side you will get the contextual properties panel. But it's still loading. Yeah,
Okay.
did not click on it yet.
Just checking in mine.
Yeah, okay.
That's also refreshing.
Okay. Maybe I think I reload the instance first.
Sorry, I think
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, I didn't get it.
I think the other side, the video from the past was playing when I clicked on something.
Oh, okay, okay. Still loading. Okay.
So UI design, only basic is done by BAs, isn't it?
Correct, correct, correct. So majority of it, I mean, once the high level design is done, it is taken care on the Dev Studio again.
Yeah. And you told wireframe in the sense mock, this one, that is given by,
Right.
so
That
that
that is.
also is not done by BA?
I mean, in few aspects, I mean, in few projects that I've seen, the product owners would be very specific. I mean, like they themselves give the wireframes also sometimes, the mock screens. But in few projects, I think they are flexible enough, they do it themselves. So I think that depends on the project needs, like who looks into that aspect. But yeah, it's good to at least have an understanding of how that works, right? Yeah.
Hmm. So even this is like wireframing, isn't it? We are doing mock in the sense then it will be refined
Correct.
by,
Yes, yes. So if the client doesn't have a specific idea of how a screen looks like, I think we can show him this is how your application is going to be, and these are the screens, the mock screens that are going to be. Yeah, we can show him. We can have a review with the client directly. Yes. So I clicked on the collect information, and on the right side, here is the configure view.
okay.
Let me click on this.
Okay, it's come now.
Yes, yes. Okay. Yes, here is it. But this is like the regular view that we see, right? But now in order to customize this or in order to change the way this looks, so how would I open that is open it from the process. So configure views are a regular one where we directly design the field and the field type, we select all of it. Okay? But in order to check, in order to change the way, so let me open this. So here, if you see an option, like you see the workflow, it's like a flow chart that you see. In order to
Yeah.
go to sections, let me open it on the Dev Studio.
Oh, so this has to be done from there.
Right, right. Yes. So you can go back to the App Studio whenever required. Let me click on this connector. So yeah, don't need to worry about these rule forms like flow actions and all. Don't need to worry. But inside this we have a section. So let me open. Yes, so you see, this is how the section looks like. And currently,
Yeah.
the template used is a one column. So that's why I see all the elements added in one single column. Right? But if I want, I can change the template. I can change the way this looks like. Yes. So these are the multiple options that I could deal with. There's a two column template with equal screen space. There is a two column with 70. There's a two column 70/30. There's three column, there's four column, then a lot of other things. There is list with image, metadata, and actions. This you can take an example of Make My Trip, right? Where you search for the flights, you give the source, you give the destination, and then you give a date, right? So you get a list of all the available flights. You see the flight image, the icon, the logo of that airlines, then the flight name and details, then the cost. So this is kind of similar to that approach. And yes, we can choose this depending upon what kind of data you're presenting on the screen. Okay, as I'm collecting information, maybe I could use a three column template. So let me use this. And on the three column template, yes, what do you have? There's everything on A, there's nothing on B and C. You can swap, you can change it across. So it could be one for address, right? And this, if you observe, these are the data entities, the candidate list and all, right? We had it as a list of items. So as this is a list, I cannot use it as a three column template here, correct? Because it's a horizontal set of lists that you're showing. I cannot just fit that under one single template. So on this screen, for at least this particular aspect, my three column template will not work or will not be suitable basically. So for example, let me put or let me just remove this for a moment, the candidate list. I'd like to remove this. You can in fact, no. Yeah, this is how your candidate list looks in the back end. Your address, date of birth, email, first name, all this we add horizontally. So this is part of a candidate list and this is how it looks in the back end. Okay, if you think this isn't suitable, yes, you can remove it. Okay, for now I'll just put a candidate and a student. Let's see how this reflects. I'll save this and then I'll go back to the App Studio to have a look. Okay, so I just saved this. I'll go back. I'll go back to the App Studio. I'm going to save it. And we'll see what happens. So the section that we changed now, we have changed it from a single column template to a 3-column template. Okay, let's see how this looks like. So let's see. Right. So now you see it is part of a
Yeah.
3-column template. Now the first name, last name, so there's email, there's address. So I'm able to change the way this looks like. Yes.
Yeah.
Now this 3-column template looks good on the uh, large screen preview, as in like if you're using a web or if you're using a desktop, this suits. But will a 3-column
Mobile.
template on a mobile? No.
Doubt, yeah. There it will be.
Yeah. Right. So let's see how the system reacts to it. We will see different previews. Okay. There's a tablet. I think it works good with a
Fits
tablet.
in tablet. Yeah.
Yes. I can choose what kind of tablet it is. It is an Apple iPad or it is Samsung. I can choose different kind of options. And yes, it looks
Okay.
okay. It looks a bit decent on the tablet. Right? I can
iPad.
also
Yeah.
check its orientation. So if it's vertical or horizontal. So I think in both the ways it's still a little decent. I can handle it effectively. What mobile? Can I expect a column on a mobile?
We'll see what comes now. It's very bad, isn't it?
Right? So
Yeah.
now there isn't any column anymore. So even though we defined a 3-column template, in the mobile the system considered it as a stacked template only. It's like only one below the other I can see. So
Yeah.
how the system adjusts to it? So that is nothing but the responsiveness. Initially, if you remember, we spoke about Pega is responsive, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean whatever I see on the web, the same thing I see on the mobile. No.
Oh, so it will automatically reformat it.
Exactly, yes.
Okay,
So
that's cool.
given
One more
is a
thing I
3-column.
observed. Here, sorry, I can hear my own echo again. This one, here it allows also to test Apple also, isn't it?
Yes, correct. I
Yeah.
can use the mobile.
Usually Apple, they are very monopolistic and because when we test in the React Native and all, we need to have MacBook to test on a
Correct.
mobile simulator for iOS. But in that we can test for both. It doesn't, but in Windows it will not let you test for iOS.
Correct. But
But here,
here
is it
we
because
can
they have bought some copy, something from them, Pega? That's
not very sure about that, but yes, we can, we can
they would
check
have paid heavy, I think,
application.
to.
Yeah.
because they don't do anything without money. And
That's true. That's true.
yeah, it's so difficult to do anything because it is like that is dominating now. So any app you're developing, you need to also test on iOS, isn't it? And to
Correct.
test iOS,
Correct.
you should have a Mac. You should be
Correct.
doing
Correct.
Mac.
True. True. So in fact,
Yeah.
we with this we will be able to generate mobile applications also. So both Android and iOS can be generated.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's so cool. Like it's just a click of a button. So it's the
Yes.
same thing
Yes.
you do in React Native or anything. You need to do
Correct.
so
Correct.
much.
We need to do a lot of stuff. Yes. Yes. True.
Yeah. So when you're running now, if the client says like they want mobile app and a web app, so you test and you put the same application and it is
Exactly.
responsive and it will take accordingly its shape.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
Okay, cool.
In fact, we can check on different other devices also. Like you see, I can check with pixels. I
Yeah,
can check.
those are all Androids, isn't it? So they
Hmm.
let anywhere.
Yeah.
But Apple, that's why I saw Apple and I was really happy.
Even for the iPad also, I'd be able to choose from Apple and the other Lenovo, Samsung. We can choose from among the different operators.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right? So even though while designing we have used a three-column template, the system has adjusted itself according to the device, according to the screen
Sorry,
size.
one more question I had. I don't know if it's out of scope or something. When
Yeah.
you move an app to
Mhm.
Android, like Play Store, they let you in the sense there's not much authentication you can do. But when you're going for iOS, you need to have a proper
Yeah, I
account
mean
and you
for
need
both
to.
of these we need to have specific certificates. When I want to add in a random app into the Play Store or iOS, I need to have some certificates. Right? So yes,
Yeah, so you
all
have
of
to apply for Apple, isn't it, if you're going for
correct,
it?
correct.
Yeah.
Yes, true. So yes, now we can say that Pega is responsive. Depending upon the screen, depending upon the device, the resolution that you're handling, yes, it is responsive. Just blindly go with the three-column template on a mobile, right? Which doesn't make any sense to the user. So we get a lot of horizontal scrolling, vertical scrolling. You know, the screens would be distorted. So all
Yeah.
that
So
can
in
be
this
avoided.
case, though we did a three-column one, it didn't cause any issues, isn't it? Still, we can keep that.
Exactly. Yes, yes. So the mobile, I mean, whatever
It will
template,
automatically take as it wants, but it will display everything. It will
correct.
not cut anything for the customers
Nothing. No, no. I mean, it will display everything, but just
in
in
a
the order.
different fashion.
Yes, correct, correct. So
Okay.
now you see, this is how the home screen looks like. Right? So here I can see all the work list. If you remember, we saw the list, work
Mhm.
queues, all of that for a user,
Yeah.
right? So you get to see all of it here. Everything would be there, but in the way that is designed for this device.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how you can deal with the responsiveness. And once you start digging deeper, I mean, that's part of the Dev Studio, but directly from a section, these will not be responsive. We have something called as dynamic layouts. So those layouts are responsible for this particular behavior. Okay? This is more like a
Mm.
sort of a good to know information. That's okay. That's
Yeah.
fine. Don't get it here and there. But, yeah. So the core is the dynamic layouts inside the section, which is causing this. Okay, right. So are we so far? Any questions?
No, I think I asked in between itself.
Yeah. Okay. And likewise, I can go with any specific template. It need not be a two-column one. It could be three, four. There are otherwise there are other sort of templates, right? Depending upon the data you're going to present. So you
Okay.
can choose those options accordingly. The templates option
Okay.
is corresponding
Once
to the.
can you? Just show me how you went here, you clicked on collect candidate
Okay,
info
I
or
clicked
somewhere.
on the process, right, and sections would be available on the Dev Studio. So once I click on it,
Oh, so configure view, you went somewhere else. You first clicked on configure view, isn't it?
correct. But
But you can go from here also.
yes.
Okay.
But once
Then
the
double
section
click on
is
this.
handled on the Dev Studio, you will not be able to open the configure view directly. Like for example, so that's why I told you the regular approach. So always you can't see it from the configure view. For example, now this is a section that assume a developer is working on it. Okay, so he will use this view where he gets to see all the dynamic layouts and all. I was talking, right? Like inside a section of dynamic layouts. So this is where a developer will be working on. And once he converts this into a particular composite view, you cannot open the configure view directly. Like if I just go back to the App Studio.
Oh, but from here you can click and go.
Yes. So even though if that's not possible, you should know how you can navigate to the section. Now, for example, if I open this.
Yeah, so I think different ways. Okay.
See, now you see, I don't see anything on the configure view. When you do
Okay.
not know what fields are there, what types it is, you need to click on open section in Dev Studio.
Okay, so instead of going to Dev Studio, that is the way to check from Application Studio in that way,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. Yes. So
Okay.
it's always
But if you
better
go
to
to
know
Dev
this
Studio, I
approach.
think you can see it from configure view, isn't it? If you go to.
No. Even from the Dev Studio also, if the section is manipulated directly on the sections, you can't see it from the configure view. You should click on open section, and this is how you see it.
Okay.
So this would be initially there until the developers come into picture. You can work on configure view, but once they start working on it, then you should go with this process or this
That
approach.
workflow chart.
Exactly. Right.
Okay. Actually, that's also ready-made produced, isn't it? Otherwise, you need to build one,
Yeah.
check,
Otherwise,
edit.
I do not know what is the name of the section. I should given those details in the search, I should find out. It becomes
Yeah.
hectic. I
No,
can directly
no, I'm
jump
saying
onto
like
that.
even the workflows, instead of first building in Visio and then um,
Mhm.
transferring it to the work,
Correct.
it's
Correct.
all you can do it directly. It's like it shows you a picture here itself, isn't it? Even a graphical
Correct. Correct.
representation.
True. Correct.
So all those we can screenshot and put for the later if you want any documentation
Hmm.
and anything, isn't it?
Yes. You
But
can
I
put in the
think
actual
now there's
live process.
not much documentation, I think, because everything is done as agile way, isn't it? So
Hmm.
it is
Right.
documented as and when.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a pain when there was waterfall. More.
Correct.
There was
Yeah.
one team for documentation itself, isn't it?
Yes, like 2 to 3 people used to work only on the documentation.
Yeah.
Yeah. True. So, are we clear with this so far? Any questions?
Yeah. So far it's
Right?
okay. Yeah.
Okay. Then, moving ahead, yes, okay, I've designed my UI or I've designed my layouts as per the data I want to show. Okay, understood. Now, sometimes the forms would be dynamically refreshed, as in like, um, suppose on this context here, you are collecting the spouse information of a candidate. Okay, so I don't need the spouse information if the candidate is not married, or if probably the candidate does not wish to specify.
Mhm.
If he is married, I would like to ask the spouse details. So this is more like depending upon the user input, I want the form to be changed dynamically. How
Mhm.
do I do with that? How do I put some conditions and how do I design these forms dynamically? So that we'll be looking at. So let me just go back to the original section. I mean the template based section. So based upon certain conditions, I can decide the visibility of a particular UI element. Let me go to the App Studio. Okay, here is my case, right? So if I click on Configure View, yes, I can still see this. Okay. Let me open the process. You can directly open it in Dev Studio, or you can click the process, open the connector. It's the same thing again, either way.
Yeah.
So let me open the section. Yes, here is your section. Okay. Now, yes, I have a lot of this information. Maybe I'll just remove it. Maybe I'll remove this candidate personal information. All of this I wouldn't need. Okay, assume this is how I have first name, last name, date of birth, address, email. Now, I would like to collect the marital status of the candidate. Okay, so for that, what you do? Click on the plus sign here. What is it that you want to collect? The marital status. So for that, I would use a picker, maybe a drop down.
Yeah.
So if you have like 3 or more options, you generally go for a drop down. If it's 1 or 2, it's okay for a rate choice. So where is my drop down? Yes, let me configure it. So all of this, yes, I can do it from configure view also, provided if I'm able to open it, I can directly create a configure. So all the fields that you create, they tend to be property in the backend. So every field that I created, first name, last name, email, phone, all of these are nothing but properties to a developer, right? So it's more like a developer's approach where he can create a property. Otherwise, if you think, no, you would like to handle this from the configure view itself, yes, you can add in your inputs here, as in like your fields. So let us add in a field for collecting the marital status and the spouse details. Okay, let me name it. Okay, for this, I'm going to use a pick list. And what is your pick list going to be? I'll let it be a drop down, and I'll let the choices be single, married, and do not wish to specify. Now, along with this, I would also like to ask about the spouse name or spouse details. House name. Let it be text. Okay. Now, if a candidate chooses single, there's no point of asking him the spouse name. Correct?
Yeah.
So I can set a visibility condition on the spouse name. So if the candidate selects married, only then I will ask him the spouse name. Otherwise, I wouldn't ask him these details.
Mhm.
Right? Deal with that, right? So let me, I'm going to save this. And in
So
order
where
to
did
deal,
you validate it? We are yet to validate.
yes, we are yet to do that. So in order to do this, I should go back and I can do it on this section. Okay, now I'm going to save it and let us open this on the section. Yes, here is your section. I can just refresh it because we already made a change on the App Studio there. So the same should be impacted here. I don't see it. Let me just close all of this. I don't see my change. So let me just
It's
close.
not saved.
Yeah, let me just go back once. Do I see it here or is it saved at least on the App Studio?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's saved on the studio. Then why is it not shown there?
Let me just submit and then once I'll save it here. I think it's not submitted or what. It's still loading. Now let me just open. Okay, let's open the Solid Web Studio. Let's see. Is it reflected? No. Yes. I see the marital status. I see the spouse name. Okay. So by default, spouse name is always available. And whenever I run the case, I see it is displayed. But I would like to set a condition here. So what is your condition? By default, your visibility is set to always. But until unless the marital status is married, I wouldn't want to show this. So you can define a condition. It could be an expression or it could be a when rule. So we have already
So this has to be done from Dev Studio only.
yes, at least this part is from the Dev Studio.
Dev Studio, okay.
Yeah, the basic dynamic behavior that we are doing is from the Dev Studio only.
Mhm.
Okay. I can define an expression or it could be a when rule. If you think it is reusable across other aspects, you can go for a when rule. Otherwise, you can create an expression. And
If
you
it
can
is
choose,
reusable everywhere, then what I didn't need to use?
you could use a when rule because that's like a function. You
Okay,
can reuse it everywhere. But the expression is only confined to this part.
this point, okay.
So what is your condition? It is marital status. If it is equal to what? Married. You can add in multiple conditions if required.
Mm-mm.
Okay, let me see. Yes. So if the marital status is married, only then the option for spouse name is visible. And do you need any space when it is hidden? No,
No,
the
I think
purpose
because it
is
will
I,
look
I
bad.
don't want, yeah, exactly. So I don't need it. Let me see. So I'm going to save this and then just save. And then finally, yes, submit and then save this as well. Then go back to the App Studio. Let us see how this looks like. Record is saved, which means all the changes are impacted already. Let us run. Okay, it has gone to the same preview. Let me just bring it back to the desktop. I mean, the behavior still remains the same.
Mm.
Okay, let's see. Yes, by default, I wouldn't see any option for spouse details. But once I select married, do I see? Yes. You see, spouse name appears. So,
Yeah.
bringing some dynamic behavior? Yes. So, likewise, this could be done for multiple properties based upon multiple conditions. Yes,
Yeah.
you can deal with the dynamic behaviors as well.
Mm-hmm.
Clear with this? Any
Yeah.
questions?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Now, on the same context, if you want to calculate some prop values, as in like suppose you might have visited this online EMI calculator,
Mm-hmm.
correct? You give the loan amount, you give the tenure, you give the rate of interest, you will see an EMI generated,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we don't need to click on any submit button, wait for another screen and all isn't required. As in when you change the input, the output is modified, correct?
Yeah.
So this is basically your calculated properties. For example, okay, let me go to onboarding. I'll give an stage here. Let me just name it submission. For example, there is a collect info screen where you're collecting the tenure interest amount and then your EMI has to be calculated. Now, how do I do that? For example, let this be loan amount. Loan amount would be an integer. Okay. Then the tenure of your loan. tenure, I'll let this be a decimal. Something like 12.5, 13.5 years or something. Yes. Then rate of interest. Interest will also be some 6.5%, 4.39% and all. So I'll let this be a decimal. Okay. Now the target that I want is the EMI or the monthly payment that you have to make. I'll just name it EMI. Now, this has to be a calculated field. This is not something where the user is going to enter. No, this has to be auto-generated. Correct? So in that case, I cannot let it be, a type of text or something. So there needs to be some additional aspect here. So what is that? Let's see. So for now, I'll let this be a decimal, but we will make some changes on this. Now, yes, here is an option called, is this a calculated field? Yes. And of course, it is a read-only field. Once I click on this, you can define the calculation. As in, like, how is this going to be calculated? You can define your mathematical expression. Yes. So that is possible. So rest of the three would be input fields. This is going to be a calculated read-only. So is it going to be a sum of? Is it an average of, maximum of, minimum of, or is it a custom one that you're defining? Right? So you can choose these options. So this is one way you can do it, or if not, probably once I submit this, you see all of them are optional fields only. Right? So here also you can choose a calculated read-only. Either way, it is one and the same. Either you do it while defining, or probably it could be done after you define the field. Here you get to see a configure calculation. Here you can define the expression. So this, in the developer's terminology, this is called a declarative expression that we are defining. But for us, it is more like a calculated read-only field. Yes, you can choose the function. Probably I would like to define a custom function here, which is generally, I think a formula for this is PNR by 100, isn't it? Loan amount times tenure times interest by 100.
Wow.
Let me just use this. Loan amount into the tenure into interest divided by 100.
What is the dot you're putting before that?
So this one, okay, this gives you the property, the field. So we act using a dot.
Okay.
See, for field prompt, it is like, for me to access a particular property, you need to give a dot here.
Oh, it already displays. So if you don't know how to give it, it shows you also.
Exactly. Now, for example, if I just give a dot, it gives me all the properties on this particular onboarding class.
Yeah.
Yes. So let me just submit. So you can deal with dynamic data displays. You can deal with calculated read-only displays also. Okay? So all of these minor aspects, I mean, even though they are minor, it creates a lot of impact when you show it to the customer. So within probably or two, you can design the whole of this, and if you show, the customer would be really happy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, most of this as a BA, right? That you don't need to work as a developer. So let's see. So let us see. Okay, now you see EMI is a read-only field.
Yeah. Now if
but
you
I see
put it should give,
amount,
isn't it?
tenure, all of these are input fields. Suppose if I
Yeah.
give in data here, okay, probably 1 lakh, tenure is 2, interest is maybe 2.5. So I see the EMI is being calculated. So whenever I make a change on any of these, I'm changing the tenure from 2 to 4. Yes, I see a change on the amount. So why is this point? If I've given 2.5, right? Right? So the interest is 2.5. I see an immediate change on the value. So each time the input parameter is changed, the expression is evaluated, and I see the EMI is calculated, and it reflects the new value. So
Yeah.
this happens for every input that you change. Now you see this is your EMI. Right? So these are your calculated read-only fields. And on the developer's terminology, a declare expression rule is created. What is it? A declarative expression rule.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, it from a developer aspect, if you look at, you can see a declare expression rule created on this property. So this creates a declarative expression. But for us, it is more like a read-only calculated field.
Calculated field.
Yeah. Yes. So both of these things, I mean, the read-only calculated fields and your dynamic visibility conditions. So both of these will provide a dynamic behavior to your application. It's not static anymore. It's not just it will collect information, then process it somewhere and then show it somewhere. No. As and when you collect the input, you can see that dynamic behavior. Right? So you see here a declarative rule is created. Yes. EMI. So this is the declare expression, which in case if you need some other aspects, so the developers would take it from here. So they'll start working on this declarative expression. So if you need some other aspects to work on and all, so from now on the developers would take over this.
Yeah.
Yes. Right. So this is how you have. I mean, we have created a declare expression from the App Studio.